Good morning, and welcome back to the One Celtic Fans View this morning. I'd say I hope you're having a nice morning, but I all know that you're pretty much suffering out there, as are quite a lot of Celtic fans. There's lots to get through this morning. We're going to have a look at the way that the media are talking about the game yesterday, and we're also going to listen to the Celtic manager for our sins. But the first thing I want to do, it's bad when Dundee United are even trolling you. At full time yesterday, they put up this little, of his Twitter profile. And it's basically just taking the piss, isn't it? And it's difficult to see how, when other teams start ripping the piss, how this manager can ultimately get back into winning ways. Can he get back into winning ways? That is the question. And will he be given time as the Celtic manager to get into winning ways? I'm going to let you hear Wilfried Nancy's Twitter, talking about his Twitter update after him saying that he was going to stay off social media.
Finally, Wilfried, you said that you were going to be...
Why are they calling him Wilfie?
Staying away from social media to try and block out the noise. Then you did tweet yesterday. I just wondered what the point was you were trying to make exactly.
My wife was not happy, and to be honest, believe me or not, the profile was about Columbus. So my ex picture was about Columbus, me being in the locker room of Columbus. So I just wanted to change what I have on my WhatsApp. Simple as that. So it was not a message or something. I don't want to create a battle. So simple as that. So I did it because my picture was about looking upstairs in the locker room of Columbus. So I just wanted to change what I have in my WhatsApp. Simple as that.
Wilfried, thank you for clearing that up. Best of luck tonight.
He's an absolute. I didn't know that you needed to go onto Twitter to change your WhatsApp. Is he really taking that we're going to buy that nonsense? I've never had to go onto Twitter to change my WhatsApp profile picture. I think he's talking absolute nonsense, is Wilfie. Let's listen to what the manager had to say about the game yesterday.
Wilfried, it looked so good. Why and then did it end up in another defeat?
Yeah, I think that we did a good job.
No, you didn't.
To be honest with you, we had many chances, but we didn't score. We hit the post again, and after that, in 3 minutes, we lost the game because they scored on two set pieces, I would say. The second wave was maybe offside before the second corner, but yeah, after that we pushed. But again, I think that we have to kill the game. We can kill the game. We have the chance to kill the game effectively in the first half. Many times, but we don't do it. And after that, we start the second half. They push, and there are a few corners. And yes, in 3 minutes we lose the game. So
in 3 minutes we lost the game. Says Wilfried Nancy. Good one from Celtic lad there. The thing is, Baz, the chances we had, if we were converted, we would also be saying that there's an improvement, more work needed, but they weren't. Argument for both sides. There is an argument for both sides because let's face it. I mean, you can go back onto the video from last night, the live, and the first half was good. So who is it on? Is it on the manager? Is it on the players? I don't think that a manager would go in and tell them to play bad at half time. When the players came back out in the second half, they went back into a Brendan ball type thing. They disregarded everything. These players disregarded everything that they were doing in the first half. The one-touch pass stuff, the fast-paced football. The players abandoned that, not the manager. And I know it's difficult to sometimes, we're all disappointed in the result yesterday. And the board will not sack the manager. They come out yesterday and basically said that this is a long-term project where they're looking at this window and the next window. They know that the team needs refreshed, and I don't think that the hierarchy at Celtic are about to jump on the panic mode button and sack Wilfried Nancy. But he did go on to say,
So this is difficult because obviously I think that we did really good things. We were in control of the game. We attacked, and but we all the chances that we had, we were not able to score on this one.
yeah, it was difficult. It was a difficult night all round. Wilfs.
In 1978, how difficult a moment is this for you to try and come up with the answers for this team to try and get a win?
Oh, for sure, this is difficult for the club. This is difficult for the players. Difficult for myself.
That's a good one there. I'm just going to stop that and come up. If Celtic have a striker, we're going to the break 4-0. That's true. But, you know, I mean, the fans that go to games are entitled to have their say. And I've seen a lot of people commenting online saying that the fans were ridiculous last night, calling for him to be sacked after 4 games. They pay their hard-earned cash. They go week in, week out. They're entitled to sing and shout what they want. You know, it was a big majority of the support that were singing for him to get away. There was a big majority of support that was for singing for Martin O'Neill. But you can only... I feel sorry for him in a way, because he's coming to this team, and maybe Brendan Rodgers knew that this was going to happen. He had the foresight to go, this team's pish. I'm not having it on my CV, on my reputation getting done in because Celtic haven't bought players and Celtic have sold all their best players. We didn't replace Kyogo Furiashi. We didn't place... we replaced the grumpy Greek with the big Irish lad, Adam Ida. Adam Ida scored 30 goals for us, but Celtic fans thought he wasn't good enough. Celtic fans last night thought that Johnny Kenny wasn't good enough. Daiz Maeda should have buried one. There's so many players last night that had the opportunity to put Celtic in front. A good Celtic team would have demolished Dundee United last night. And that is a Celtic team that seems to be either playing with a lack of thought to what the player, to what the manager wants, or the worrying part for me is that Rangers have managed to get themselves back into this title race, or at least the race for second place. You know, they're one game away. We'll lose at the weekend and they win. You know, if they win by 4 goals, they're above us. And that's not acceptable at Celtic. But I don't want to go down the road of coming across as entitled, like some of the... And I didn't like that type of ridicule, Baz. Can you remember it ever happened before? I can't remember myself anything like that. We were talking about it on the live last night, talking about the Tony Mowbray era, and I don't think it was even as toxic. The club's toxic, doesn't it? The club is toxic. The fan base is toxic. The fan base, the board, and it's hard to see the next... You could get rid of Wilfried Nancy tomorrow, and then the business plan goes out the window, because it looks as if after Brian Wilson sat on Celtic TV yesterday and said, look, we know the mistakes that have been made. We know. Let's try and rectify it. Let's try and go forward and change things. But the fans aren't listening. The fans don't want to listen. The fans don't want to listen to what the board members have got to say. And that's the reality. And when you've got two forces at loggerheads like that, it's difficult to see how... I mean, we're in danger of going down a Man United road now. For Man United, such a dominant force in football for years in England, Celtic are on the verge of entering our very own period of darkness. And yes, people say that the board are to blame, managers are to blame. I blame... listen, the blame goes all the way back to Ange Postecoglou. It goes all the way back to Ange in 2021 when he came in and he didn't fancy youth players. And then Brendan Rodgers continued that. There's been mistakes all over the club. The last time they lost 4 in a row was 1978. Yeah, I seen that last night. But anyway, let's look at some of the headlines around the world for what was a joyous night for Celtic. First one we go to is RTE in Ireland, Wilfried Nancy. Celtic nightmare continues with 4th consecutive defeat. Wilfried Nancy's nightmare intensified as Dundee United's second half comeback consigned the Hoops to a 4th consecutive defeat since the first time since 1978. We then jump over to the Mail. Online, Wilfried Nancy insists that he's still the right man for the job, despite angry fans chanting they want him to go after a 4th defeat in a row as manager. We need to talk about this seriously, because if we get rid of Wilfried Nancy, say he loses to Aberdeen, we get rid of him. We then bring in Sean Maloney to the end of the season, and Fozzie and everything, and they just tick us over to the end of the season. They've got to bring in players to maintain a league position and try and put up a fight between now and the end of the season. Sean Maloney's not picking the players. You've then got to change manager in the summer, and that manager's got to come in and try and get us into the Champions League, if we even finish second. He's got to get us into Europe. He's going to have qualifying games to get us into Europe. And that's not ideal. The ideal scenario was to bring in a manager now and get it all set up so that the time that we get to the summer, we've got every player in that we need. You know, and it's not working. It's not happening. The board might stick to their guns. The board might just go, do you know what? We are not changing manager until the summer. We are not going to be that club that goes through 4 managers in the summer. The board might just ride it out. The board aren't talking to the media, and they're definitely not talking to Celtic fans. Next up is News RT. RTHK. And they said Celtic crisis deepens as Nancy loses first 4 games. Wilfried Nancy nightmare start as Celtic manager took another turn for the worse in a 2-1 defeat. The Glasgow Giants lost their 4th consecutive game for the first time since 1978 in the Frenchman's first 4 matches. Just 2 weeks into the role, Nancy has faced calls from the visiting fans at Tannadice to be sacked. Earlier in the day, Celtic chairman Peter Lawwell announced his departure at the end of the year, and we thought that maybe that would incite Celtic fans to have a bit of joy, but there's no Christmas joy being given out this year, that's for sure. Next up is Yahoo Sport. Wilfried Nancy insists that Celtic are improving despite the losing start. You can say that they're improving. You see, we can't deny it that there is no improvement at all by Wilfried Nancy, even though the scoreline says otherwise. When you look at the way that we're playing first half, the signs are there, but we need better players. We need a striker. We've known this. We're expecting. Martin O'Neill came in and had an easily couple of games. Chris Sutton last night came in and said that the players are absolutely not of Celtic standard. Johnny Kenny should not be a mainstay striker. He should not be a number 1 striker at Celtic. He's a backup young lad striker. He's not a number 1. And that's the situation that we're in. Dyson Maeda, I've no idea what's going on with him. He decided that he doesn't want away in the next window. He wants to stay till the summer, and of course, because he's playing in the World Cup, and then all eyes are on players that play in the World Cup. People that are looking for players will see if Dyson gets any game time. You'll be able to get Dyson Maeda for about £5 to £8 million in the summer, and that's the reality of the situation because he's only got a year left on his contract. The 2-1 defeat by Dundee United at Tannadice obviously had fans up in arms about the situation at Celtic. And the irony of it is the last man to lose 4 games in a row was Jock Stein in his final season at Celtic. Wilfried Nancy was asked about the chance. He said, I heard it, and obviously it's not easy to hear that, but I can understand their frustration too. It's new to me to have 4 losses in a row. This is also new for the players. I can understand why they are upset, but the only thing I can tell them is that I think we had a good performance. Yeah, in the first half, but he's a 45-minute manager. We are still missing goals that could have been good for us. This is, you can't deny that he's not telling the truth at that point. I mean, if we'd scored our goals, you score the goals in the first 5 minutes, and it's a different game altogether. Steve says, Maeda has the worst technical ability of any pro footballer I've seen apart from Kenny and Balak. Yeah, it's just bonkers, isn't it? Next up is the BBC talking about it, and when the fans turn, that's the end. I don't think they're far away from that. That was a comment from Chris Sutton last night, when Chris Sutton said, you know, when the fans turn against you, the clock has started. You know, the countdown timer has started. On the eve of him popping up on social media to change his little thing, it's just, let's listen to Chris Sutton, in fact, because it was interesting to hear what Chris Sutton had to say after the match yesterday. We did listen to it live last night, but let's listen to it again.
In games and perform well. I mean, Wilfried Nancy saying it was a good performance. It was in the first half, but there are 2 halves to the game. Wilfried.
Yeah, Chris Sutton in absolute pain listening to this. I mean, he knows the score.
And Celtic weren't good enough in the second half. I've got massive sympathy for him. I think Chris touched on it before the game, you know, saying that this isn't a rehearsal. Celtic aren't in pre-season, and if Wilfried Nancy had a whole pre-season, you could maybe see things panning out and the club moving in the right direction. But he hasn't got that. He's saying, I haven't got time to work. He said that in the interview with Luke. So it's going to be incredibly difficult for him to really get this side going. I mean, what's happened since Martin O'Neill has left? The confidence levels of certain players have dropped. Hattati looked like he was coming onto a game under Martin O'Neill. Engels. But the bottom line was Celtic, and it has been like it all season, and I don't care what anybody else says. They have some bang average players. They have second-rate strikers, and that's the issue. Unbelievable chances tonight. These players aren't good enough to play for Celtic, and bad in both boxes.
Yeah, bad in both boxes. And what do you feel about Chris Sutton? Do you feel that Chris Sutton is right? The fact that we've got bang average players. I think we've known it for a long time. And you know, the last manager spoke about quality. It's still excuses, says Blackie. Is it excuses? It's excuses that Celtic have allowed us to. We're going through a period of managed decline. That's more than yeah. Let's go to the Irish Examiner and see what the Irish Examiner were saying about the game yesterday. Beleaguered, Nancy insists that Celtic are improving despite the worst run since 1978 after the 2-1 loss to Dundee United. Nancy finds himself on the end of Celtic's first 4-match losing streaks since January 1978 during Jock Stein's final season in charge. Can he win this back? Can he get back to a position of strength? Can he last out until the transfer window? And will Celtic sign players? Ultimately, this is where we're at. Rodgers begged for signings. Yeah, he did. And we seem to have forgot that was the position of the previous manager, Martin O'Neill. Martin O'Neill said, at my time at Celtic, I had a team of men. Grown men. This team is it's like a boy band, wee skinny boy band for the 1990s. Do you know, there's no physicality in the team at all. None whatsoever. And you can only play with the players that you've got. And that's the worst thing about it. We need to go and buy a right good striker, type of John Hartson. Will Celtic spend upwards of 10 to 15 million? Will Celtic spend up to 10 million, say, on a striker? Because that's what's ultimately needed. It's the shit he's talking about. Yeah, I get that, mate. About to listen to you driving home on my bike. Keep it humorous for me. How about and always look on the bright side of life. I think that, you know, coming in from Vietnam is Ray Ray. He was up at 4 o'clock this morning to watch that Celtic game before he went to his work. There's one thing. The fan base aren't together. The board aren't together. There is a big majority, obviously, want rid of these people that are on the board. I mean, Wilfried Nancy yesterday looks like a man that was he doesn't know where or what he's ultimately doing at Celtic. When you look at the board members, I was saying before the game yesterday, we take them out of the club, and then we're going to have to bring in new people. And how quick can they change it around? And do you know, we got rid of one yesterday, and Peter Lawwell. He wasn't even at the game yesterday. I think he only goes to the games at Celtic Park. But ultimately, these are the three people that are charged with changing things at Celtic Football Club. Can they change it enough for fans to get off the back of them and the manager, Wilfried Nancy? There's no positivity this morning. Do you know, it doesn't matter which way you look at it. When you look at what Chris Sutton said on Twitter after the game, Chris Sutton said, after that Maeda miss, you wonder if it's just not meant to be for Wilfried Nancy. The bottom line is more substandard players than manager. All goes back to a poor summer. Chris Sutton telling it as it is. Do you know, he's not trying to paper over the cracks. We've known how bad it is from the summer. Martin O'Neill just papering over the cracks doesn't really do us any good. But then we look at that, and the manager is getting trolled by Dundee United admin, and you can see the way that the fans are thinking online on Twitter. Celtic CEO on why Wilfried Nancy was the number one candidate. I don't think I've ever seen us calling to get a manager out so quick. And Rangers are just 3 points behind now. And that is the worst part. Martin O'Neill, Sean Maloney, could they made it any harder for us to get beat? So arrogant with not discussing the team in greater detail, with Martin hell-bent to continue play three at the back when the quality is simply not there. He's failing to adapt in games when he's clearly not working. You heard what the fans think tonight. Time to go, Chris Sutton. I think it's disrespectful. It was disrespectful for him only to spend 15 minutes with Martin O'Neill. I did say that when it came out from Martin that he spoke to the manager for 15 minutes. I thought, do you know what? I know as a manager you come in and you have your own ideas. We need to stop feeling sorry for him. He's the man in the top job. He took it. He wasn't kidnapped, put in there to do a well-paid job. He just isn't for us. Happens all the time in jobs. Full team rebuild, says Kieran. We've got 100 million in the bank. We need to use it. We need to use more than that, mate. Lauren says, can anyone name a team in the league you'd be confident of beating home or away? As it stands just now, well, if we isolate the performances, let's analyse what happened in the game yesterday. When you look at the first 45 minutes, we were playing some fantastic football. We were ripping Dundee United apart. The second half, We reverted back to Brendan Ball. We reverted back to taking 3, 4, 5 chances. The back line in the first half were playing as a solid back three. There was spread apart, but they were playing in a solid line. The formation was good. I'm going to say that. The formation was good in the first half. Dundee United came out with fire in their belly. Mixed it up a bit. Celtic players froze. That's on the players. It's not on the manager. The players froze, and then the players stopped playing the way that Wilfried Nancy wanted them to play. I'm not defending the manager at this point. I'm berating how bad the players are and how bad that was on the players yesterday. That second half performance was on the players. No one else. A manager, once the players cross the line, the managers can tell them to do whatever, and they played the first half the way that the manager wants them to play. Whatever happened at half time and coming back out, the players in the second half did just not give they didn't try. They went into their shells, too many passes, slowed the game down. Why? Why has to be the question. Why did the players do that? Are the players trying to get the manager the sack? And if that's the case, you know, how can we attacking team when we can't turn a ball pass from defence forward instead it goes back against Rodgers' mentality? It's a shame for Nancy. Yeah, but like I said, we didn't play like that in the first half. So I'm just going to jump in. I don't even want to talk that. No matter how good this manager does, now the fans have not taken to him, and never will now. He's came in, changed the winning formula, and lost 4 games in a row in a cup final. And 3 behind Rangers. Yeah, that's only going with football. There's other things going on in the world that are more than people. I don't know why people get so upset. I think it's just the fact that we're watching our club go from being the dominant force in Scottish football for 25 years, and that can never continue long term. Do you know, it's very, very difficult for any club to keep on making the correct kind of decisions for the club to ultimately have a continuation of such a winning formula. Listen, we didn't play great football when it came to the end of every manager's tenure. This manager's just got off to a really bad start because of the previous manager. Let's say that. I mean, why will the manager allowed Adam Eder to be sold? I have no idea. That one's on Brendan Rodgers. People could say it's on the board. Brendan Rodgers has got the final say whether he allows a player to leave or not. And he allowed Adam Eder to go from Celtic. Adam Eder would have scored some of the goals last night. I don't care what anyone says. If we had kept Adam Eder, we would not be in the position that we were in, especially when it comes to games like that. He has to go now. It's only going to get worse. It's so talk mixed. The atmosphere is abysmal. Yeah, it is. But how do we change that? Because another manager coming in has got the same players. We're not going to win the league. I think that's more than apparent this year. Can we bring in the winter window is a difficult window at the best of times. Can another manager that comes in on a temporary basis see us through to the end of the season? We've then got this whole rigmarole again in the summer, and it's an absolute nightmare. It's a nightmare, and I don't know the real answer. Yes, the fans want the manager gone, but the way that the board will look at it, they'll say, no, let's not bow to the pressure of the Fenians. Let's not bow to the pressure of the Fenians and don't let them get their own way. They're not telling us what we can do. Just one of Saddam Hussein's right hand man. I just thought that was funny. Got to try and cheer ourselves up this morning. Anyway, the Celtic news out there this morning. it's very difficult to see ultimately the way forward. And all eyes are going to be on the manager this weekend. I can only imagine what the atmosphere is going to be like at Celtic Park this weekend. It's going to be a case of how many fans ultimately turn up for the game, because Celtic fans not turning up in mass numbers for a game against Aberdeen, 3 o'clock kickoff. Aberdeen have won 4 out of their last 5 games. They've only drawn 1. Aberdeen are on a fine run of form. Can Celtic get the result against Aberdeen? If you can't get it against Dundee United, I mean, that's a terrific result for Dundee United. Let's not take anything away from them. I mean, it's given them 3 points, which has kind of pushed them away from the 9th position spot. It's got them right up there in the mid-table thing. They'll be thinking now that they've got a serious push, Dundee United, to try and fight to get into the top 6. Will they be able to do it? I have no idea. How can we even think about playing Ralston, who shouldn't be on the bench? Never mind at Celtic. He's not the only one, though. Yeah, Jim, Chris Sutton alluded to that. You know, the players at the club, and you've got various managers to blame for this. Various managers. We go all the way back. We've no decent youth players coming through the system. Daniel Cummins, Rocco Vata, Ben Doak, all allowed to leave the club. Those young promising players weren't given a chance by Ange Postecoglou. They weren't given a chance by Brendan Rodgers. And now they've all left the club. We're at a position where I seriously think that we're on the verge of going down a Man United style meltdown here. And we're not going to win anything for the next couple of years. And that's my honest gut feeling this morning. I think that the glory years are over at Celtic. This will take more than half a season to rectify. We're now looking at a 2-year plan to try and rectify to get us back to the way that we were, if that can ever be done. Because you've got Hearts of Midlothian sitting with £10 million in the bank. If they spend that, even a quarter of that, wisely, they'll get some good players in. If they even spend £5 million of the £10 million war chest that they've got sitting there, Hearts are going to romp to the league. Rangers are woeful. They've managed to creep up into 3rd place because Motherwell have drawn 3 games and out the last 5. Hibernian, they've just hibsed it all together. I mean, they've only won 2 games out their last 5. And they were there. That was teams that were playing way better. I mean, they're a game in front of Celtic and Rangers. Celtic and Rangers are only on 16 games, whereas Hearts are on 17 games. Celtic should have been closing the gap. We're not now. We've imploded. We've done our Rangers. You know, you can only imagine that. Well, I don't even want to go online to see that lot laughing at us because it's karma. You know, we've walked right into this. Never mind them not paying the face painter. We've walked right into the clown with the custard pie, and we've walked into it face first. The clown didn't even have to come out the door. You know, the clown with the custard pie just stood there, and we've walked straight head on into it. And that's the unbelievable thing at Celtic this morning. That's the worst thing about it. And the fact that Hibs, I mean, the only bright spark of this season, for me, is the fact that we've got a fantastic youth striker at the club now that's going to be here for the long term, but he's out injured. Would Jota made a difference this season? Cameron Carter-Vickers out injured so long. Alistair Johnston hasn't kicked a ball all season. Don't know. It's And that's what makes me think we're on the verge of a complete and utter meltdown. 100% the players need to take a long look at themselves. Of course they do. Of course they do. It's disgusting. We'll finish 4th the longer this man stays in the league. If that's what it takes to get rid of the hierarchy upstairs, are you prepared to finish 4th? That's what it took back in the 1990s to force the board out. And people don't understand that. People say we want change. And, you know, it's like sack the board, sack the board, sack the board. The only way that you get rid of the board is if we end up in 4th in the league, 3rd in the league. Until then, they're not moving because they're doing a good job in their eyes. If we finish 4th, then they have to go. And that's the only way that you're going to get change at Celtic Football Club. And it's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be pretty one iota. Let's jump into some more of the comments this morning. Manager, halftime, team talk, lost us the game, whatever cack he spouted. I don't think so. That's on the players. It's all on the players. He needs his own players, says Stephen. Yes, he did that. Fans are shouting in the board's face, and the boards are standing, acting like they are not responsible. If that's the case, we need mass boycotts for that to happen. Mass boycotts don't work to a certain extent. You know, I'm sorry to be the one to tell you the truth, but the only way, if you want 1990s style change at Celtic, Celtic will finish 3rd, 4th in the league. And that's how it happened in the 1990s. And I don't think people realise that that's the extent that it has to go to for the board to be removed or for them to resign. Because if we finish 2nd, they'll put it down to a bad season. Finish 3rd, and then they've got to start contemplating it. Finish 4th, and they've no choice. But Celtic fans, I don't think, have the appetite for us to be such a dominant force in Scotland for 25 years to then come crashing down to 3rd. It's not so much that the pack of cards has collapsed, it's the fact that it's been the continual disrespect from this board and disregard from the board to bring in players at the right time. And then on the other hand, you've got the board members saying, well, give us time to rectify the wrongs. We know what's went wrong. We know. That was Brian Wilson yesterday saying on a video on Celtic, we know what we've done wrong. Let us rectify it. Hidden agenda from the players could be the thing, Baz. I think so. If players get managers sacked, it's as simple as that. Players always get the manager the sack, and if they don't like the manager, maybe they're just saying, you know, they're not doing it intentionally. But you've got Dies Maida. He should have put that in the back of the net. Johnny Kenny, he's got to be scoring a couple of those goals. Golden opportunities. If you've got a half decent striker, I'll go back to it, Adam Ida. If you've got Adam Ida, we were winning 3-0 last night. Yet Celtic fans thought Adam Ida wasn't good enough. And that's the disappointing thing. Who wants to come to Celtic now? Because you're looking at it, and it's the same thing happened to Man United. You start getting players in at Man United. You see all the ex-Man United players going, what's fucking wrong with these players? They don't want to fight for the club. This is what we're now going into. You're going to bring players that have no affiliation to Celtic, that have no love for Celtic, that are going to be journeymen, and they're going to be brought into the club. And then they're not going to want to fight. They're not going to be wanting to fight like Luke McCowan. Luke McCowan's pish is not the answer. He puts in 110%. And it's just difficult to find where we're going to go from here. This is like COVID season all over again. Another defeat on Sunday, and it's game over. I think it's game over anyway. There was no excuses over some of those misses last night, mate. Yeah, there's no excuses, but it happened. Why did it happen? Quality. Chris Sutton told it as it is. You know, the players aren't Celtic standard. We can't lose any more games coming up. Aberdeen is a must-win. God forbid the Huns beat us in our own patch. Well, they've got 2,300 fans coming, so the team changed mentality because it was the Rodgers way. Rangers have their momentum now. No, the momentum is still on Hearts. Still on Hearts. Big Adam wanted to dip, I think. I do have some sympathy for William Nancy, no matter what his attitude is. Nancy wants a system that most teams are incapable of playing. They need elite fitness, finesse, vision, strength, agility. Those players rarely exist. And the ones that do don't come to the SPFL. That's a cracking comment, Lon. Absolutely cracking comment. There's been two really cracking comments this morning. Another one was from Celtic Lad. You know, if we'd converted the chances last night, we would have won the game comfortably. It comes down to ability. It comes down to how can you blame one player? I don't think that we're blaming one player. I think that we're blaming the majority of the players. No worries, Stephen. Hope all's okay at the hospital. I'm going to jump through the comments. 450 comments this morning. I'll get to the end. 100% Baz, all down to the players. Honestly, the first half was flash and no finish. Exactly. I mean, Dice and Maeda scoring. If we'd scored 2 of the 3 opportunities that we had in the first 10 minutes, you know, quality. Mention quality, but at the same time, minus a few that won well under Martin O'Neill. We didn't win well under Martin O'Neill. That's the thing. We won in the 96th minute against St Mirren. We're papering over the cracks here. We need to take our Martin O'Neill tinted specs off. We scored. Callum McGregor scored in the 96th minute. That wasn't playing well. That was luck. That was Callum digging in. Yet a lot of people say Callum's shite. Callum saved us against St Mirren in that game. He saved Martin O'Neill's blushes. Nobody would have if we had got a draw against St Mirren that game. Nobody would have complained because we were woeful. Martin O'Neill wouldn't have complained. Martin O'Neill said that we were lucky to score the goal. You've got a great player in Feyenoord. Wasn't luck. That was a good performance. But as our bench's backroom staff look like they're sitting skeletons, no support, no passion from the sidelines. Yeah, this is true. That St Mirren game we were lucky not to lose. Exactly. McGregor will be off to Saudi soon with Rodgers. Not a chance. Not a chance. Look at us versus St Mirren in the cup final. Yep, we're nobody there. Nobody cares. Yeah, the players don't care, that's for sure. It's going to end up in a big fucking bang. It's the only way you're going to get change. You're not going to get a change of board when you're winning and you're in contention. It's not going to happen. The boards will sit tight until it's too late. And I know that the fans don't want it and the fans want change now, but it never works like that. It never works like that in any business. So we just need to wait and see what the manager says at his press conference tomorrow afternoon. The players will have a day off today, which isn't. I wouldn't give the players a day off. I would, if I was the manager after that performance last night, I would be saying to the players, I want you all fucking in Lennoxtown 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. We sort out this fucking shooting issue that you have got. Never mind warming up, warm down, fucking exercise. Fucking just concentrate on putting the ball in the back of the net for 4 hours. every single one of yous. I want every single player to do shooting practice, and that's it. We start scoring goals. Because if you don't start shipping in goals, you'll be shipping out in the next window. And maybe the manager needs a bit of balls. And you've got to give the manager his due. He took off Rio Hatate last night. For me, you're thinking, wow, he's got the balls for the job. It's just, can he have the longevity? Can he get the results to save his ass for the job? I do think that he is a half decent manager, and he can if he had time, he could have us playing some fantastic football. Way better than Ange Postecoglou, way better than Brendan Rodgers. But I just don't think that he's going to get the time, ultimately. Can't believe how fickle these podcasters are. We used to be skirting all over Nancy's appointment just a couple of weeks ago. I don't think it's just podcasters, mate. If you want to go and look at the fans, and I'll show you if you want. Blaming people on like me online, you maybe want to go into the land of Twitter, because all that is on Twitter is things like this, and that's not podcasters. Don't know, that's fans online. So blaming people like me that were all over Nancy, I still think that he can do a great job, but there's thousands upon thousands of Celtic fans that have decided this. Anyway, it's always good to get opinions. It's always good to get opinions, even though yours means absolutely nothing. Casper's finished, yes. Listen, nobody needs to convince me that Kasper Schmeichel diving for a ball, trying to get it with his right hand when it was going out his left. Not being funny like, but Kasper, I mean, even I could do that. Do you know what I mean? See which one's going to go further. He tried to save it with his right hand. Too many bad decisions. We've never needed the transfer window so desperately. This is true. Nancy could go. Nancy to go, so did the people who put him there. That's not going to happen. Why is Nancy clapping Dundee United goals? I don't think that he was necessarily clapping the Dundee United goals. I think he's trying to motivate the players. It may have seemed as if he was clapping the Dundee United hands, but from a professional manager to do that, I think that it was more him clapping, trying to motivate the players, say, come on. And it's just the wrong thing to do. I mean, if he'd stood at the side of the pitch, he's right, fucking come on, get your fucking act together. That'd be but the French way, you know, and it didn't go down too well with Celtic fans online. Spend 50 million on a new squad. We need to spend more than that, I think. How do I think it'll go? Honestly, strap yourself in. Get your seatbelts on and buckle in for the ride. The boards will not sell this manager short. The boards will keep him here. The transfer window is only a couple of weeks away. Doesn't matter how bad it's going to get. They're not going to sack him. I think they'll give him to the window. And if he doesn't improve it at the window, if we end up falling down the league into third position, even fourth position, Motherwell are a good team. You're then into the 1990s era of change. Because until then, these board members will not resign. They'll not resign in second place. They'll struggle on to the summer. It will take us an unbelievable fall from grace. Let's not try and kid it for what it is. It's an almighty fall from grace. And sometimes the only way that you get change is with that almighty fall from grace. And maybe that's what it's going to take. Do you know, it took that in the 1990s. We were woeful. We weren't finishing second in the league. Sometimes you've got to go through that really bad adversity to come out better on the other side. Celtic fans want change when you're winning. You never get change when you're winning. Never. I hope it doesn't happen that way, but that's my honest opinion. I think that we're going to go into our very own Man United style decline. I can't see how we're going to change it, and I can't see how any manager can bring in players that are going to, unless we start bringing in 6'4" players, a squad of 6'4" players that are going to muscle up, that can play this manager's system. If we're allowing Tisdale and co to go online and Google stats on a bloody player, unless they're putting in a filter 6'2" and above, whatever the software they're using to pick out players, they need to use it like a dating site and put in real specifics. 6'2", built like a brick shithouse, fast, pacey. God. Nancy's a new age waffler like Arteta. Just get some of these comments in. Michelle, do you want to get rid of the zombie? Atati off, left McCown on. Yeah. Just go jump through these. I'm just going to go through the end. There's hundreds of comments. Celtic were good yesterday, just couldn't score. They had about 5 sitters. Yeah, they did. Lawwell, why is he waiting to the New Year's Eve till he leaves the club? Why don't we get rid of him now? Tell him along with the rest. It's generally the way that people do things at clubs, at any business. You generally don't walk out the door unless it's unless you're fired by making the decision that he does from a business point of view. You've got to think of a business. You know, it's not like one person owning the club and making all the decisions. I think some of our fans need to remember that it is a real working business, and you've got to run it like a business. Because if you don't, nobody with any business acumen. You're wanting change at boardroom level. If you're just going to get people walking out the door and then willy nilly, the fucking who with any decent business acumen to run the business is going to come into Celtic? Do you know why just get Tam off the scheme? I used to do windy cleaning. I care a bit about cash. I punt it gear. I'm all right, mate. Fuck's sake, man. Anyway, that's me done and dusted for this morning. Big shout out to the 1,700 people that we've had on. Nah, let's just keep going. We will win the league. We will win the league. God. That's a bit keen. It's Scottish football. It's the most dinosaur type of football. Yet we see when we go back to basics, it's going direct. We'll always win under O'Neill. Ask Milani. Yes, John. That's probably that. John, fair play to you, mate. That's one of the most sensible comments of the day. But will the manager's focused on his own way of doing things. That would be the sensible thing to do. The sensible thing would have been for Wilfried Nancy to go, I really liked what you did at Celtic over the last 5 weeks, Martin. And then saying to Celtic, look, is there any chance that we could maybe keep some of these backroom staff just so I can bounce ideas off them? You know, but he wants to go down his own route, and if that's the way he wants to go, like it says, we're miles off it. We are that. More importantly, well, I go to Greggs or Baines. Baines all day long, mate. You go to Baines over Greggs. You go to Baines way before you go to Greggs. Baines is cooked locally. Greggs is mass-produced nonsense. How long did Rodgers talk to the Saudis? Probably in the summer. We need to sign layers Layers, I think you mean players, as early as possible. Joseph. Baines every time. That's what winners does with winners. If the manager won't listen to Martin O'Neill, he's not going to listen to Sean Maloney. Yeah, pretty spot on with that one. If he's not going to listen to Martin O'Neill, and he only give Martin O'Neill 15 minutes of his time, he's liable to end up in rehab for 6 months. Baines it is. Baines Bridie. I know you're making me miss home. I tried to get to Baines when I was home and it didn't work out. Never mind, it's only a week till Christmas. Yes, it is. Let's spread some Christmas cheer. Nancy out. Oh, Jesus. It is that. He's the new John Barnes. Ooh. If Fozzie was screaming, he'd listen. Yeah. He maybe would. Right, that has been done and dusted for this morning. I might jump back on this afternoon. Lauren, I've never heard the Baines. Michelle, that's because you come from the West Coast. Baines is an East Coast crew. Big up the East Coast crew. Why is Strachan still there with his iPad? No idea. No idea whatsoever. Anyway, should we do an afternoon slot? Yeah, we'll do an afternoon slot roughly about 3:30 Celtic Park time. On that note, until then, have an absolutely fantastic day, Celtic fans all around the world. And I mean that on a personal basis. Try not to think about football too much today. Try and just switch off. Do you know, go and meditate. Go into YouTube now and type in beach meditation and just sit and relax and forget about Celtic and forget about the struggles that you may be having and forget about any thing that might be giving you sleepless nights, because we're coming into a period which is very difficult for a lot of people, and it's a sad time of year for a lot of people, but it's a time of year that nobody should be feeling alone. So on that note, I don't want anyone to be feeling alone. Let's do as many lives as we can over the next couple of weeks to make sure that people have someone else to talk to, because there will be a lot of people watching these videos that may be sitting at home alone. And I want to keep this community going over the Christmas period to make sure that nobody is left out. On that note, have an absolutely fantastic day, Celtic fans, wherever you are, all around the world.